So I played this game a lot over the years, and there's a ton of cool decks, but the coolest thing by far is that you can have 3 Pot of Greed in every single one of your decks thanks to the ban list removal glitch. But after a while, drawing 2 cards just didn't feel the same. It just wasn't giving me that rush that it used to. And you know what's better than drawing 2 cards? Drawing 3 cards from your deck. And not that conditional draw 3 cards, I'm talking about a straight up draw 3 cards period. You see, after properly restoring the Invincible Fortress deck, I spent some time resetting for the best rock card in the game, Legendary Jujutsu Master. But during my time resetting, I also came across another rock card which might actually be the most Chad card printed in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! This is Avatar of the Pot. I mean, look at this loincloth. You have to have some serious confidence to be rocking something like this. And that's just the English version. This rare opportunity gave me the thought, what if we built a deck that lets you fully abuse his draw power and give him the glory that he truly deserves, considering we never got a chance to do it in a traditional Yu-Gi-Oh! Format. So this is what I came up with. It has the very simple strategy of recycling your Pot of Greeds with the 3 playsets of magic recovery spells, which lets you constantly exchange your worst draw spells for the Pot of Greeds in your graveyard. And normally, Magical Stone Excavation, Spell Reproduction, and Feather the Phoenix will quickly deplete your hand, but since Pot of Greed is giving us a +2 on our overall hand size, whenever we discard it with the Avatar, we can repeatedly use these cards and even Feather the Phoenix paired with a draw spell in order to keep recycling the Pot of Greeds. This will also help us dig to find our win condition, which is a single copy of Reversal of Graves. And this does stand a chance of being Dust Tornadoed or MST during your end phase, so pairing it with a single Makiura will allow us to win much more consistently and even before our opponent takes their first draw. We also have Soul Release as it goes along with the win condition, but just for insurance purposes in case we need to use card destructions or if our opponent goes first and builds up a graveyard. Giant Trunade is also another insurance card in case we go second and want to clear the way before we summon our Avatar. Although my favorite piece of tech in this deck is Thunder Dragon, which lets you get some advantage early in case you need to pitch it for a Graceful Charity or Magical Stone Excavation, and it also allows us to play a copy of Pot of Avarice, which if you can get 2 uses off of a Thunder Dragon, then it gives you a ton of advantage, so this is definitely some spicy tech in this deck. On top of this, the deck really isn't that expensive to make. Graceful Charity is really the only expensive card in the deck, as it is with most decks, but Avatar of the Pot is very cheap. The Reloads, Magical Mallets, and Thunder Dragons are pretty cheap, and you can even get Upstart Goblins from packs. Really just Excavation of Stones and Feather the Phoenixes are the most expensive cards otherwise, and things that you'll have to buy, but you can also use Drag Down to the Grave as another budget option. The result of all this is a very fun deck to play, as we have nearly every draw spell in the game and often have the tools to keep digging until we find an Avatar to start really building up the advantage. This deck is actually really consistent too, because unlike some of the other FTK decks, this only needs 2 combo pieces in order to get the whole thing started, and one of those pieces is Pot of Greed, which is a very streamlined combo piece and is really good even without the combo set up. And just seeing 1 Pot of Greed turns online 9 different cards that help you recover it back, which is sort of like playing with a total of 12 Pot of Greeds once you get an Avatar in play. Spell Reproduction is probably the most situational out of the magic recovery cards, but since we pretty much only play spells, this means Spell Reproduction is often always online for us too. I think compared to a more traditional Reversal of Graves deck, this has a little bit of an easier time maintaining a bunch of cards in its hand, as the more trap-based ones require you to get a little bit lucky with things like Sixth Sense sometimes, so this is definitely a little bit more consistent and a little bit funner to play as well. I also tried a few different win conditions like Exodia or some copies of Magical Explosion, but Reversal of Graves is just the most efficient out of all of them, as it really only requires one slot and is online pretty early. 15 cards in the graveyard really isn't that hard to do, especially for a deck like this. And honestly, this 2006 Ultimate Masters no ban list format gives this deck all the perfect tools, and this sort of game is a perfect snapshot in time for an old Yu-Gi-Oh format that allows super fun strategies like this to exist. And honestly, building super unique stuff is one of the reasons that I love these old games so much. So if you like this broken deck profile, do leave me a like, as this is actually my first ever deck profile video, and honestly I was pretty inspired to do this after seeing fellow Ultimate Masters content creator Emplemados GMS, who is absolutely holding it down for our Spanish speaking community. So do be sure to go check him out. And if you'd like me to cover any other Yu-Gi-Oh games, be sure to also let me know, as we will be covering some cool new stuff in the future. This has been the most broken deck in Ultimate Masters, and if you disagree, you're wrong.